Welcome to the Hands-On Business Podcast. Where else are you going to come to get tips, tricks, and advice on growing your business? As you know, what people tend to love about this podcast is that it is a place where you can hear real business leaders discussing systems, methodologies, and strategies that they have used to help them catapult growth in their business. So I'm your podcast host, Hakeem Adebiyi, and I've grown several small businesses to multi-million pound enterprises and noticed that there wasn't really a place that focused on where I was, i.e. growing a small business. All of the content that seemed to be out there was about big business and often just a lot of theory and no practical implementable advice, which is exactly why I set up this podcast. Today we welcome Sonja Crystal Williams onto the show. Sonja is a digital marketing expert, a thought leader and co-founder at Go-Getter Marketing Group, which is a digital marketing agency based in Atlanta, Georgia in the US. Now Sonja is perfect for our show because she loves educating small business owners and entrepreneurs about how to expand their business by creating strong and actionable strategies, such as how to create 20 pieces of content in a day. And she also loves teaching social media marketing teams about how to organize and plan content creation, build profitable ad campaigns, and analyze website traffic. So today, we're going to be talking to Sonja about why generating video content on social media is so critical. So there's lots of stuff to be going through, but we're definitely going to be talking about how can businesses or individuals optimize their video content for different social media platforms, something that everybody asks about. And then also we're going to be looking very specifically about how do you measure the success of video content on social media and what metrics should businesses be tracking. And as always, there's going to be a whole lot more than that. So happy listening. Happy to be welcoming Sonja Crystal Williams onto the show today. Sonja is a digital marketing expert, a thought leader, and co-founder at Go-Getter Marketing Group, a digital marketing agency based in Atlanta, Georgia, so on the other side of the pond, as we say. Sonja loves educating small business owners and entrepreneurs about how to expand their businesses by creating strong and actionable strategies. So today, I'm going to be picking Sonja's brains about why generating video content on social media is so critical in your business. So welcome, Sonja.
Thank you so much for having me, Hakeem.
My pleasure. So we'll jump straight into it, as I always do with my guests. Tell us a bit more about yourself and how you come to be, on my show talking about social media and videoing.
Sure. So, I don't even know where to begin, but I've been in digital marketing for about 15 years now. And as mentioned, a co-founder at Go-Getter Marketing Group. And I'll tell you a little bit of backstory. So I, have a previous background in marketing and sales in different corporate roles as well as government roles in the past. And back in the US here, when we had our Great Recession around 2008, 2009, I was ready to make a career change. And the company I was working for at the time was giving voluntary exits rather than layoffs. So I chose to take a voluntary exit package, which allowed me to walk away from that employer on great terms with about 6 months severance. Went on this journey of starting this company and thought that I would just be kind of consulting people and started out consulting friends and family with little marketing tips here and there, but quickly realized around that time, around 2008, social media was really on the rise. And this was even before some of the social media networks we have today, like Instagram and TikTok. I saw it as a huge opportunity and started consulting with businesses on their social media strategies. And just for me, it was a lot of local businesses right here in Atlanta. Eventually that grew and expanded to companies nationwide. And I was consulting and providing strategy only at the time. And eventually a lot of those businesses started saying, okay, well, you're guiding us, but can you do it for us? And that's what really started the growth in our company, where today we do some social media services for some of our clients. We offer one-day sessions where we'll help business owners dig deep and create that content. And we also train marketing teams and business owners on how to create compelling content that they can manage on their own.
Oh, excellent. So a bit of a journey from and starting off with just helping people and tips and tricks to actually now managing a full-blown agency. People talk about video, and I'm really interested in doing video, and I've dabbled with it over the years, and I go through peaks and troughs So can you explain why video content is actually so important on social media platforms as opposed to any other form of media?
Yes, it has been on the rise for years. It's the thing about videos, it's a little tricky, especially in working with business owners who don't necessarily want to be on camera all the time. But the reality is, the way social media networks are moving, you got to do it. There's just no way around it. Whether that's you as the business owner, whether that's people you find at the company who are willing to step up and kind of, in a sense, be an ambassador to the brand, or whether that's creating user generated content and getting your audience to help create some of that content where they're sharing what they love about your product or service. In any way of those forms, video has become important because the social media networks prioritize it. So if you're in a position where you're interested in growing your firm and you want more visibility online through these different social media channels today, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, even Pinterest, right? Video becomes a big part of it. Just about a year or two ago, Instagram announced that they were shifting to become a video first platform, which was a huge shift from the traditional, we're photo based, we're based on, photo capturing and you sharing those moments. Now we are a video first platform. That's major, right? You have another social media network like TikTok that's on the rise, all about video. You have Facebook, which I kind of say is the catch-all, right? And some people don't like Facebook, but the truth is Facebook is still the number one social media network in the world in terms of usage. And the video content that you create and put on Facebook in many instances will get a lot more visibility and reach to your audience over standalone images or text content. So part of it depends as a business owner on what social media network is important for you to prioritize. And then as a business owner, getting comfortable first with the idea, yes, I might need to be on video or people on my team or people in my company, and then coming up with a strategy that's going to allow that to happen, not once, not twice, but consistently over time, again and again and again.
So just a couple of things that come out of what you just said there, Sonja. So firstly, because lots of people will always say, yeah, LinkedIn, business platform, and you've just mentioned Facebook and getting more engagement. So is Facebook still something that you would suggest you should be using for business, or is it more for the personal, or does it depend on the brand?
I think it depends on the brand. I think that if, for example, I'm an online retailer, I sell clothing and shoes, I need to be on Facebook, I need to be on Instagram, maybe even Pinterest, and possibly other networks. And if I'm selling wholesale, then LinkedIn might be the place where I connect with distributors or buyers of my product or service. And Facebook is in Instagram, and those networks are where I go to face consumers. So it very much depends on your product or service. But here's what I'll also say. Even though we manage and help clients to engage on social media, I'm a big believer in don't spread yourself too thin. You don't necessarily need to jump on every social media network because it just might not be realistic in what you or your team can manage. So you really need to pick and focus on, can I get really, really good at this particular social media network and have a lot of impact before I branch off and try to shift to the next best thing, right? I have some clients that I've advised, do not get on TikTok. Go reserve your name and hold it and make sure that you own that so it's consistent with all your other social media networks. But you might not be ready for TikTok yet because that is 100% pure video content. And when you want to grow on that network, it requires a lot and it requires you to do it all the time. So it doesn't always make sense for everyone to jump everywhere at the same time.
Okay, brilliant. And then we talked about, or you talked about Instagram saying that it's going to be a video first platform. And I'm assuming that the reason why a lot of these platforms are going towards video and video is so important is because it's engaging. People engage with it. And that's why the algorithms are now really prioritizing that sort of media.
Right. It's entertainment. It's infotainment. It's edutainment, right? It's some combination that when businesses release that content, they're doing those things. And if you think, let's use like an Instagram, for example, right? Because that's good medium ground for most businesses to be on a platform like Instagram. So if I am a business owner and I'm jumping onto Instagram and I'm thinking, well, what do I share? What do I do? When we think about video content and single that out, you've got multiple ways of posting video content on a network like Instagram. It's just a matter of choosing which medium makes the most sense for me, right? And I often go through and analyze and stay in kind of touch with a lot of different digital creators and podcasters and paying attention to how are they growing? How are they growing their brand, right? And then I have my own clients I've worked with that we've been able to help grow. And what is it that they're doing? For some people, from a video standpoint, it's I went live every single day for 90 days, and that helped grow my following. But it was consistently done. And over time, that algorithm started promoting the video more and more and more, right? So on a platform like Instagram with video, you've got lives, number one. Then you have Reels, which is growing in popularity. So Reels, for anyone that's unfamiliar with Reels, is Instagram's answer to TikTok, right? TikTok existed first. Instagram went and created, this is going to be our version of, for people maybe who aren't on TikTok, here's what you can do over here. You can create these videos, and these videos can be about a minute to 90 seconds long. And you're going to get massive visibility when you publish on Reels. And then use Instagram's embedded features, use the audio, use their video editing tools. So that's number two place. Then you have stories, Instagram's answer to Snapchat. Snapchat was released first, right? But Instagram has the wider user base, more visibility. So they launched stories, our 10-second snippets that we put on our Instagram profile that gives us additional visibility. So you really can use any of those mediums, just using Instagram as an example. And I'm a huge believer in, once you've published the content there, is there an ability to give the content you published on one social media network life on another social media network? Can I take that story that I just published on Instagram and reach an entirely different audience if I uploaded it directly into Facebook? Could I take it if I'm on LinkedIn, which isn't the norm, but I see people do it. And for some of the people I see do it, it works really, really well. Again, depends on your brand. But the idea is every piece of content that I generate has a lifespan and a life cycle. So can I look for ways to repurpose it in other places? Can I take that Instagram reel and then the video from the reel and now plug it into YouTube Shorts, which is YouTube's answer to TikTok and Instagram Reels, right? It's all a game. So how do I get in as a player, as an entrepreneur or business owner, or the marketing leader for a team within a corporation? How do we get in the game and make that happen? And getting into video content is part of what's going to help you really steer toward results.
Okay, so just on that point, because you picked up a couple of the questions I was going to ask. So the one thing I was about to ask you, so let's say that I produce a piece of content on YouTube, not YouTube or LinkedIn, let's say. Obviously, it's a different format when you go to Reels or you go to TikTok or you go to YouTube Shorts. So would you suggest changing the content, or can you just post it, but obviously change the format so it fits into the container?
Yes. So I'm a big believer in customize per network that you're going to publish on. So I'll give a little secret. Okay. Our technique when we are managing video content for some of our clients is sometimes, not always, but I'd say probably about 60 to 70% of the time, we do a little bit of pre-editing before we upload it into the platform to make sure it's sized correctly. Now, this also goes back to, how do you record the content to begin with? Okay. And so most people, if I'm keeping this kind of cost friendly, I'm recording on a camera phone. Okay. And my camera that I'm using on my phone, you have the option to hold it like this, which is landscape, or like this, which is vertical. And Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, all those that's the vertical content. So general rule of thumb that many videographers would tell you is record your videos in landscape, but you need to be in like the middle because you're going to end up clipping that video to portrait. Okay. And then another little videographer tip, right, that I've learned from videographers nowadays, record at the very least, try to record in 1080, but now you can do 4K and 8K and all these other levels that you can literally change the setting on your phone. It's just going to produce a much larger file. But when you do edit the video later, it doesn't sacrifice the quality. So we record a certain way, and then we change the framing of what size the video is. And we might use an app or a simple editing tool to do that prior to bringing it to each platform. And then once I'm uploading it into, let's say I've got a video, I'm going to put one version in Reels. I'm going to put one version in YouTube Shorts. My Instagram version, I'm going to upload. I'm going to do a text overlay in Instagram using their tools. If I want subtitles, you could do that ahead of time, or you could do that within Instagram. And then I'm going to add trending audio on that reel. Okay. And then publish. That trending audio, by the way, it may not sound the same or even be available in YouTube's library or TikTok's library or wherever else you might publish. So it might be a totally different song, but I stick to using the audio in their platform. On Instagram, I use Instagram's audio. On YouTube, I use YouTube's audio because it's going to help my video get more reach, and it's going to keep me from violating any copyrights. So those are the different ways you might approach it as you're looking from platform to platform.
That's really useful. And so then how do you find the trending audio? Because that was just something you just mentioned there. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe in investigating. If you want to get good at Reels, study Reels. Look at other people's Reels. Go in the app and start getting familiar with it. And on Instagram in particular, look in the bottom left corner. And if you see a little up arrow, it means the song is trending.
Okay.
And then you can save that audio and use it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, they're the top tip for you that you weren't expecting. And then, so just sticking on this a bit, because one of the things you said right at the outset, when we're talking about this section in terms of repurposing, was about consistency. And that's probably one of the biggest issues I think that business owners are concerned about. That, well, if I start doing it, I have to keep doing it. And like you just said about going live for 90 days. So if you get any tips to say, well, how do you do that then? Because, you're running a business, you've got loads of stuff to do. You may not even like being on camera. And now you're saying, yeah, but you might need to be going on camera every day or every week or, even every month. But it's going to be consistent over a period of time.
Right. So I think it goes to mindset. Part of that is mindset of the business owner or team leader or marketing director, whoever is the person that's going to be responsible for taking on that particular challenge. Don't go live if you don't like talking and going live. Find another medium, because more than likely from a mindset standpoint, you're not going to stick with it and you will find excuses to not do it. So you really do need to get comfortable with what you feel like you can be good at. Now, Instagram Live, you need to go live right in the moment. But there are tools out there that exist. Do a little research, do some Google searching that will allow you to pre-record your lives. Okay. One of them I've used, StreamYard. Excellent tool. Gives you the ability to pre-record your Facebook or LinkedIn. I think it does YouTube as well before you go live. So now what I do is, if I'm a person who feels comfortable with doing lives and I've now accepted this is a part of my strategy, then I don't want to wake up each day and feel nervous or anxious about what I'm going to talk about. So part of that is developing a strategy of what you're going to do and mapping out what you're going to talk about before you start that 30, 60, or 90-day run. Maybe you start small too. Don't commit to 90 days. If that feels like a lot, start with 15 days. Start with 10 days. If you don't feel like you can commit to every day, start with weekly. once a week, this day, this time, find me here. Because if your audience is watching, they're going to get used to you appearing that same day and time. So you want to think about, how do I create consistency and add value to my audience or my listeners or the people who are interested in what it is that I have to say.
Okay, excellent. And then just on that point as well, if I am a person that doesn't like being on camera, do the videos have to be me or an individual, or can they be audiograms? Or does because you're talking about if you're not comfortable with getting on camera, because some people aren't, what are the ways around it potentially?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, some companies will do animated videos. So there are tools you can Google again and find where you can maybe instead just be the voiceover and do something that's more of an animation style. You could do something that's more of a presentation style. But here's the truth, everybody. Faces always win. That's my little saying that I teach when I do social media trainings on the corporate and government side. Nothing replaces a human face and that level of interaction. So it just depends on what medium, but there are alternatives that you can use that warm you up and bring you into it. But again, if you're the business owner, it doesn't have to be you. Maybe instead, you've asked your customers and your clients to provide you with testimonials. And so now you can use snippets from those testimonials to speak on your behalf. My husband's in real estate. We mix him being on camera with real estate focused content. Sometimes the video we release are videos of homes, interiors or exteriors, because people like that. They want to envision themselves in that luxury home, right? And so if your brand allows for that, and some categories do better than others, fitness content, health and wellness, real estate, interior design, cleaning, things like that, then that is content where it doesn't always have to be you. You can mix it in with things that are happening, but where there's movement and action taking place in the video, and it doesn't feel stale and boring. So you want to think about that too. And then also remember that if it's not always you talking directly to the camera, which again, totally fine, it might be you in action. It might be, we hired a videographer to record behind the scenes during this event that our company sponsored. And so I'm not talking to the camera. Instead, it's me and my movement and my team's movement and what's happening around us that we can use as video content and craft into a message. And then one final thought I'll use, and this is just a category of videos I like to watch that pops up in my feed all the time, cleaning hacks. So a lot of times people that are doing those cleaning hacks, like it's just their hands in the video, right? But like it's super interesting. Same with cooking videos, right? It's not always the person cooking that's, showing, right? Because for something like that, that's more of a tutorial style. I'm more interested in seeing the ingredients getting poured in and how they sauteed something or, whatever the case might be. And so it also just depends on what kind of content you're going to generate. Very long answer, but there's just so many ways to do it. And that's why the planning piece is so critical before you really jump into it. You don't want to do it ad hoc. You don't want to make it up as you go along. You want to do it on purpose. And so planning is going to help you do that.
Yeah, so in other words, what you're saying is it needs to be part of a strategy, like anything else will be part of your marketing strategy. You don't, let's take it before the time of digital marketing. You wouldn't just turn up and start sending flyers out left, right, and center. You'd actually have a plan on who you're targeting, where you're targeting, what you want to say on that in that content. And videoing is what you're saying is no different than that, really. It needs to be focused and planned. Okay, so in terms of the content generation itself, what are some of the types of videos that you think are the best that will actually perform well on social media?
Yes. So I mentioned one, tutorial videos do really, really well. I think that sharing stories is also important. So if there's a way that you can craft a story, and there's a lot of different formats when we say stories, it could be, again, I mentioned client testimonials and sharing the story behind the success that a customer or client had using your product or service. So that's going to be another one. So how-to videos, testimonials, stories. Stories could also be like stories about your brand and what you do and what your people do. MailChimp has a really good example. They don't have it on their Instagram account anymore, but they used to have a highlights section, which is the little circles that appear right below the profile bio. And they used to have a highlights. And the highlights was kind of like a day in the life. And they would follow different employees around at the company and just showing, like, this is what I do. I'm the HR recruiter. So this is what it's like for me day to day. Like, that's truly a story. That's why they call it Instagram stories. So stories as a video type is also going to do really, really well. Behind the scenes can be really great as well. Even like, again, podcasts sometimes, like when you're doing face-to-face recordings, behind the scenes at events, charities, giveaways, things like that. All of those types do really, really well. So those are different styles. And then, there are just the standard informational videos that you can do as well for your audience that might be of use to them.
Okay, brilliant. And I suppose this will be a whole new world for lots of people. So we've got someone comfortable on camera or showing the hand or whatever it is they may be doing, but we've got a type of video that they're now going to do. We've got a plan, so we know how we're going to plan it out. How do you then measure the success of that content on social media? What sort of metrics should we be looking at or tracking?
So first, Hakeem, I'm glad you think that way, because most people don't, right? It's just, I'm doing it. I'm going. So yes, as a business owner, if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. So you do need to be looking at the numbers to figure out, how do I make this better? Now, all these social media networks give you your basic, which is views. Okay. So that's one of the most, I'd say, basic metrics, or what's called a vanity metric. Okay. I want to know how many views I got. So that's important. And then you typically will also get like reach. How many people did it reach? How many people kind of saw it appear in the feed? And then how many people actually clicked it to watch it? Okay. And then you might also look at engagement. How many people liked, commented, or shared? And once I've kind of created a baseline, I got my first 20 videos up, then I need to go through those 20 videos and identify which ones have the highest view count, and then which ones have the highest engagement, likes, comments, shares. And I need to look at what was the style of video that I used when I got all that views or all that engagement. What was the style of the video? What was the video about? Was someone on our team in the video? Was I in the video? Was it, some other type of action happening in the video? And then I need to duplicate it. Okay. That's your starting point. Now, if you really want to get high level, and this is where a lot of clients will kind of bring us into the picture, is great. I've been doing those things. I kind of established something, but then it's like, well, how do I get people to my website? And then actually take action and do something. Now I need to measure conversions. Okay. Because when you create those videos, yeah, it's nice to create those videos, but why are we in business? To make profit, to make sales, right? So did we get people to our website or a landing page to take some type of action? And the action doesn't have to be they immediately bought something from you. It could be they joined your email list. It could be they requested a demo. They want a consultation. They are direct messaging you on your website for more information. They want to collaborate with you. So there's a number of things, and that's for you to decide as the business owner or the marketing team what those conversion actions might be. But once you've decided on whatever that is, then you need to measure it, and you need tools in place to help you do that. And, the free, easiest tool is making sure your website has Google Analytics. Now, that's a whole nother topic, but those are some of the basics you want to think about when it comes to metrics and measurement.
No, thank you. That's very useful, because I think, as you said it out, lots of people don't think about that. And again, I'll reiterate, as you just said, it's about planning. And with everything in marketing, in my own humble opinion, you should be tracking the metrics, because otherwise it's pointless doing it if you can't then work out it's working, rinse and repeat, delete, etc., and make sure that you're actually doing the right things, and then you're improving and moving forward as you go. So okay, so what are the common mistakes that you would suggest that people are making that they can hopefully start to realize, oh, I shouldn't be doing that?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so well, one, this was one of the best statements ever made to me by one of the first business coaches I ever hired, which is release perfection. Don't try to make everything you do perfect when you're first getting started because it's not going to be. So for some people, it's a buildup. Unless, again, you're coming out the gates with all the resources ready for you. You have hired a videographer, you have an editor, you have someone who's writing scripts for you, you have someone who's writing the copy and the captions for your post. Like, unless you have all that lined up perfectly, you're going to make some mistakes along the way. So just first of all, walk in with the mindset that's probably going to happen. Doesn't mean you don't push for good quality, but you do release perfection. That it may not be perfect that first or second or third video, but we quickly learn what can we do better, right? One of my first learnings when I first started using Instagram Reels is that Instagram Reels will let you use a draft mode. It'll let you start working on a video and then save it as a draft. Well, I learned that if I save it and tinker too much with it and then hit publish, it actually distorts some of the text that you might overlay on it. Sometimes it can mess up the music. And that's why, for me, even personally, I shifted to pre-editing sometimes with another tool first because I had that learning. And I published a few things and I was like, well, it's kind of caught traction. I'm going to let it ride, but I'm not going to do that again. Okay. So number one mistake, just don't get caught up in your head about it. Okay. Number two mistake, again, not planning, not having a plan in place, just jumping in and doing it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a small percentage of personalities who can do that and get away with it. And they're amazing, dynamic people. I'm not one of them. I need to plan. Most people need to plan. So plan, plan, plan. Okay. And then number three, which goes hand in hand with planning, is start stopping. Okay. I started it. I was on a roll. I was doing it good for a few weeks. And then it just kind of stopped. And then I'm having a hard time getting back into it again. And so we don't want to do that either. So let's not make that mistake. And then you just brought it up, not tracking the metrics, not paying attention to what did I do well so that I can do it again. So think about those things as it relates to, again, in the beginning, getting started. And then over time, this gets better and better. And then you will ultimately, possibly as a business, you may hit a little bit of a plateau with what you're doing. And I come across a lot of businesses that hit those plateaus, and then it's rethinking. And first of all, it's not thinking that won't happen, because it can. And then when it does, or even before it does, making sure that you have kind of a second level plan in place that takes you beyond, okay, I've done some of these basic things, to always be educating yourself or working with a good team of advisors to know what the trends are before you hit the plateau or when you hit the plateau, so you can immediately figure out, what do I need to do better to get over this hump? Because the trends shift. Okay. We went through a few years ago with video, the saying being, oh, about 2 minutes of content is good for your videos, to nowadays, 10 to 15 seconds, even better. These things change. So don't get stuck in, I came up with this formula for how we do video and it's awesome and it's worked for me the past year and I'm going to keep doing it. Nope. Trends change. So stay up on that too.
So that's a perfect segue into the next question, actually. So how do you keep up with those trend changes? Because again, people are thinking, "Oh my God, I'm so busy. I've got to do this. I've got to track metrics. I've got to do, keep up to date with me. What's happening on trend? How do I do that then? What are your tips for that?"
Podcasts like this one, easy to listen to while you're at your desk or in the car. So listen to the podcast. Find some favorites. On Apple's podcast or Spotify, whatever you listen to, find some favorites and then pay attention to them. Seriously, that has been one of the biggest things that I personally do that keeps me in the loop. You could also follow certain blogs that will also give you that type of information, or follow some of the top digital creators, because they're usually on top of trends the most. Like one of my favorite digital creators I followed for the longest is Lewis Howes. And you can find Lewis Howes, Howes on Instagram. And it's not that Lewis Howes is releasing directly social media specific tips. I just study what he does and pay attention to what he does. But he does have some groups and other things that you can pay attention to if you want that kind of knowledge. Pat Flynn, that's another one, right? So pay attention to influencers and their accounts, digital creators, because they are the people that are usually testing out trends, right? So when I sign up for a digital creators newsletter, then I'm also paying attention to how did I receive the newsletter? What did they ask for, right? How did they write the content? You got to get into studying this stuff
Yeah.
and really always putting on your student hat so that you can get better, and better at it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely certainly something. I mean, one of the reasons I do a podcast is because I get to speak to people like you. So that's one of the ways I keep on on trend. So I'm speaking to people all the time. So this is my learning platform, actually, in lots of instances. And then also, as you said, if I'm on someone's mailing list or I'm, sending me digital content, I'm always looking at, oh, that's an interesting topic. Yeah, I can see what they've done there. So it is about studying. So just on that, because there's lots of detail that we're talking about. And people will be thinking, oh, well, Sonja talks about a videographer and advisors. So how, can a small business or an individual entrepreneur, with limited resources, start creating effective video content consistently for social media without obviously breaking the bank?
Yeah, good question. First, if you're going to go the DIY route, look for tools that do some of these things for you. One of my favorite tools is Canva. Love Canva for image creation. You don't need to be a Photoshop designer to know how to use Canva. And there's lots of great tutorials out there that show you how to use it. That's a great starting point, number one. And then similar to Canva, there are tools that will allow you, once you've recorded video, to import your video. So I'll share one of my favorites in terms of apps, InShot. It's an app that you can get on your phone for just really basic video editing. Not a huge learning curve. You can do it in your phone where you've recorded the video. Simple. Okay. So those are a few starting points. And then you get beyond that by educating yourself constantly and paying attention to podcasts, blogs, maybe even signing up for a little training course or a webinar where you can get new other tools to use, right? There's a great tool I just learned about recently, Subtitle, that will do your captions for you. Okay. And it's a low cost freemium type tool that you can use that does some of that work for you. So that's one starting point. And then the next step might be to hire support. And a great resource, upwork.com. You can find people all over the world. Maybe that's where you find a video editor, right? I'm not a video editor. Okay. So I'll do some of my own content. I might even dabble with doing my husband's content. But for businesses, I don't want to do that. Like I stay on top of the trends and play around with the app so I know how to use it. But I really hire a video editor who's responsible for doing majority of that stuff because I also recognize like that's not my area of strength. And I'd rather pay somebody to do that part for me so I can focus on where I'm good at making money.
I think what I'm taking from what you're saying is the key is really, I think you've been saying all the way through, it's just another element of marketing. And the question would be, because this is what people always say, oh yeah, but I'm going to have to pay for video editing or video marketing. Well, you pay for your other marketing. You wouldn't expect to do all your graphic design, all your Facebook ads, or yourself. You'd get somebody who's a specialist in that area. And what the whole point of this podcast is to say how important video is now becoming on social media. So if you'd pay for Facebook ads, you'd pay for Google ads, you'd pay for, graphic design, you have to start at some point if you want to get really good at it. Unless you're a video editor, naturally, you have to start paying for that service to actually move yourself beyond the mediocre, I would suggest.
Exactly. And I'm a big believer, hire a videographer. When you hire a videographer, it doesn't mean they need to come work for you full time. You can hire a freelance videographer, book them for 8 hours, and get 10 videos knocked out possibly. And then do that a few times a year to create your content. And then release those videos maybe not every week, maybe it's every other week, and then that's mixed in that high quality with some of the stuff that you do on your own to stay consistent, but to also, again, kind of start to up your level over time.
Excellent. I always try and get my guests to give me some examples. So can you give me some examples of businesses that you've worked with that are really at the top end of their game, and then almost just as importantly, how that then has influenced and driven their business forward?
Yeah. So I always like to think my clients are always a work in progress, right? But there are some great things that some of them have done, people I've worked with that have done really, really well. And part of that, to me, the key learning I take away from any client that I've ever worked with that does their content really well and has the most success with also, hey, I got people over to the website who actually bought something. It's people who focus on growing their audience first. Okay. So while we do want to create video content, if you have a newer account, also focus on growing to get in front of the right audience. Okay. Not just anyone, but find ways. And that's part of your strategy, because once you start producing that video, you want to get views on it. Now, the video will also help you attract followers, but you want to find ways to get them first. And that's probably the biggest takeaway for the accounts I've worked with that are the most successful. They grow their audience first. And then if I were to give examples of other kind of big name brands that you probably heard of, I gave one earlier, MailChimp. Great account, great content. A brand we all know, Starbucks. They do excellent with the content that they create across social media. Here's another good one, L'Oreal. Really good at the content that they create on LinkedIn being very different than what you see on a network like Instagram, because that's also what you need to think about. When I'm thinking about how to frame videos I create, my audience on LinkedIn, which oftentimes might be B2B, what I create for them might look a little different than what I create for my audience on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. So you have to remember that too, and pay attention to those big brands, and then take that in for small learnings that you might have, right? We've had some really good success with law firms, health and wellness practices, but it's always stemmed from them growing that audience first. And then as they begin to produce content, and in particular video content, it tends to catch on better and convert when they have an audience that it's getting in front of consistently.
Okay, so consistency and actually grow your audience first are the two things that I'm taking away from that, really, in terms of important. And then just moving on slightly, because obviously now people consuming their videos, back in the day, you'd probably be watching it on sitting somewhere like this in your office, watching it YouTube on your laptop or on your PC. But now everyone's doing it on mobile. So has that changed the game somewhat? What's the difference now in terms of mobile friendly videos, for example?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, again, that recording, is it vertical? Is it landscape? Is going to have a huge impact. That's probably been the biggest shift, that nowadays a lot more of what we consume on a mobile device is that vertical content. So making sure, again, that you're thinking that way is going to be important. And then also, because so many people are in apps, you have to be mindful of minor details like where I put the text overlays, right? And making sure that when it does pop up on a social media network, the text isn't getting overshadowed by your profile picture or your profile name. So you want to think about those little things. It's definitely shifted. And again, because people are on mobile, and you have to imagine someone's got a phone in their hand and their finger is literally just doing like this the whole time. Your content needs to capture people really, really fast. It was best said, I didn't say this, I think I heard it on a webinar, that you want to think about social media the way you think about billboards in the real world. Social media is a highway, and these are billboards, right? And the brain, right? There's studies that say the brain is processing something crazy like 3 million pieces of information in a day or in every minute or something crazy. I don't know exactly what that stat is, but because we're processing and trying to filter through so much information, you got to ask yourself, what am I doing within the first 1, 2, 3 seconds of that video? What do people see in the first line of the caption below the video that's going to make them stop and pay attention? And you have to be able to answer that with nearly every piece of content you create if you really want it to get visibility over time.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've started learning from my young nephew, actually, because as I said, I wax and wane with videos, but I've made a commitment that I'm going to actually put one out at least once a week on sort of like a business topic. So I keep sending it to him, and he's quite harsh, actually. He keeps saying, "No, Uncle, that's not going to capture anybody. You need to change it. You need to put this picture there. You need to put this caption." And he's actually very good, because obviously he's much more immersed in that world than I am. So he's actually, and it comes back to what you were saying about getting some good advisors. And he's not the only person. I have other people that I will send my content to before I publish it. I've just sent one. I sent one the other day, and they both went, "Your first content was much more personable than that. This is like very robotic. You need to redo it." And I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's a bit offensive, but you have to take the advice. You have to take the advice. That, they're your audience, and they're saying, "Nah, it's not good enough. You need to do it again." So I have to do it again. But I think that's, as you said as well, I like that statement you said, release perfection. We have a saying here, I don't know if everyone says it, but I always say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, which is effectively the same thing. Because I've spoken to a lot of people about doing videos. Every business I go into, I say, you need to do videos. Oh, well, we haven't got a studio. I haven't got this. I said, well, actually, just start, which is what you said. I said, you've got a camera phone. You've got a decent camera phone. At least just record yourself in an environment, because people want the content. So we can wrap everything else around that, but they need decent content. And if you just keep waiting till you get a studio, you're never going to do it. So that's so in terms of any advice that you would give, because you've actually given quite a lot here, but I'm just so basically, release to perfection, plan. I'm reversing what you said about the mistakes. Plan, make sure you're consistent, and track your metrics are really the key things that you're saying. If you want to get started, those are the things that you need to do. And more importantly, it's that planning, isn't it? It's really making sure you've got a good, robust video marketing plan.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you set it up, and you summed it up really nicely. Those are the biggest things to think about, and then just get started and have fun with it. Have fun with it. Video is fun. So have fun with it. Follow those steps. And you got to just get off the couch, get started.
And then what would you say, because obviously you've talked about a bit about the history, about what's going on now and trends, obviously keeping on top of the trend. What do you see as an expert in this area as possibly being the future of video content on social media?
Yeah, so shift something, that we're starting to see today. I personally have started using ChatGPT a lot more, and that is one of many AI tools. So I think from a creation standpoint, people will get tapped into using AI much more to help assist. And again, to me, it's not a replacement for anyone's job. At least I don't see it that way at this moment in time. It is an assistant to help you generate ideas for scripts, headlines, captions, things like that. I think we'll start to see more of that. And we'll start to see more and more people use it, but how you use it matters. So I think that's number one. And then, I don't know where the future of it will go, but I'm definitely curious to see what happens with the metaverse and how that starts to come into play in social media as a whole, and where that fits when it comes to content creation in general, or how people engage with businesses.
Yeah, no, AI is really changing the game. I've got a different platform than ChatGPT. I've been using it for years, about 2 or 3 years now, and it's certainly made a difference to my commitment and my consistency, because you can come up with a lot more ideas a lot more quickly and scope them out more quickly than when you're just sitting there by yourself with a pen and a pad. And then, because then it seems much more laborious try to think of absolutely everything yourself. Whereas you put it into ChatGPT or any other AI tool, it gives you about 15 different ideas. You think, right, okay, I'll take those 3, I can flesh them out, and I can move quickly. So I think you're definitely right on that. So we're coming to the end. So I always ask, if there's one thing that you would want to leave the audience with, and you said, right, if you don't listen to anything else, take away this, what would it be?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Oh man. I'd probably go back to release perfection. That if you're getting started and you didn't hear anything else today, and you know you want to get going with video on your social media, then just release perfection and do it. That's it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you very much, Sonja Crystal Williams. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I will be going now to record that video based on my nephew's feedback, but also a lot of the things that you've just said. So hopefully when you see it come out, you'll say, oh, right, yeah, he's taken on some of my ideas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate Sonja coming onto the show because it's invigorated or reinvigorated my love of videos. I've just started getting back into it, and it's really useful for me to speak to an expert like Sonja because it gives me an impetus and an insight into the sorts of things that I should be doing. So I'm hoping that you got exactly the same that I did, because there's a lot of insider tips there about the best ways to do video on a budget, do things about the type of videos you should be doing, the platform that you should be going on. And I really enjoyed the key mistakes that Sonja said people are making on a regular basis. And she talks about releasing perfection, making sure that you plan, because lots of people don't plan. Don't stop videoing, things that I'm definitely guilty of, and not tracking metrics. Well, that's not something I'm guilty of. I love tracking metrics. So I'm hoping, as I said, that you really got as much out of it as I did and that you really enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out the show notes at www.thesalesaccelerationformula.com. And as always, subscribe, like, and share with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who you think may be interested. But most of all, keep the feedback coming so that we can continue to improve and give you more of what you like. Hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and as I always do, keep listening and keep growing.